poop. Here with me to discuss something that everybody should talk about and it should not be embarrassing is the fabulous, fearless Dr. Raquel, our naturopathic MD. Raquel, this is a topic that I just feel like we all need to discuss.
Yes, it's my favorite topic to talk about, actually. I spend so much time in my consultations talking about poop because it gives you so many answers.
So many, and people don't think about it when they're first looking at fertility risk or infertility as a marker, right? It's not obvious. So why don't we back up a second and talk about like all the various markers before we even get to poop, because we got blood, we've got saliva, we've got poop. Mm-hmm. Now we've also got hair for various things.
Yeah.
But poop can give you a lot of data.
Poop can give you a lot of data. And a lot of times what I see most often, like you said, about that blood test is that sometimes for young women, their blood tests are off and it doesn't make sense. It's not adding up. I remember talking to a young woman and just her telling me that like her estrogen was way above what we like to see. So, like in fertility, we like E2 to be between like 25 to 75. And hers was like in the hundreds, which isn't too far off, but for someone 27, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So poop is actually a marker that can explain why your estrogen might be higher than it is.
Fascinating. I had no idea about that. But it can also it can also help like uncover some GI disorders or some other GI issues in general, like even celiac, that could actually be the cause of infertility as well.
Yes. And so I love that we are connecting the two because like we say, like in naturopathic medicine or even functional medicine, doctors will tell you the same thing. Your gut and your fertility are connected. Our whole bodies, that's what they call it, like systems biology. It's all connected.
Love that.
So we've heard of like our microbiome. This is like the bacteria and the fungi that make up your microbiome, all your gut bacteria. But what we don't know is that our gut has over 1,000 species of bacteria, some that are not even known yet. But you want this to be balanced. And what happens is if this bacteria is imbalanced, it can affect the way that we break down estrogens. And so they start to circulate. And that's when women start to have those problems like endometriosis and PCOS. And they kind of mirror these things that we see with our gut issues like celiac and IBS and things like that.
Oh, very interesting. So when I sort of consider the nutritional absorption issues and inflammation, I had never before considered hormones as part of that too. That if you have absorption issues of the hormones, that everything's circulating together, so that can be affected too. What are some of the symptoms of that? I mean, do you have to just look at the poop and look at it under a microscope or go through testing? Or, is bloat going to be kind of an area where you look, or even weight gain in the gut? I mean, what are some of the symptoms when you know that absorption is really off?
Yes. So I love that you said that because there's a research article that posted an interesting question. Is your bloat due to your gut health or to your hormones? And that's huge. It brings us this new term that we know now as our estrobolome. And this is just saying that it's pretty much breaking down how the bacteria in our gut is processing our estrogen. So that's what they call it, the estrobolome. It's a new word. Researchers are like pushing out all of this research on it. But yes, it's looking at how when you have this buildup of estrogen, it not only affects your fertility, but it leads to different cancers, to endometriosis, breast cancers, prostate cancers. Having this buildup is causing a lot of issues in women and men.
Okay, we are going to have to spell that word for everyone because I don't even know how to spell it. And I feel like the most popular thing right now is to take two existing words and squish them together to make a new word, right? It's like popular with companies and it's popular with researchers. But this is incredibly fascinating. So, the key is, how are we going to diagnose this? How are we going to test that this is really going on for patients? Because not everybody wants to give a stool sample. I don't even want to do it for my cats or my dog.
Exactly. But so to spell it, it's estro, like estrogen, ESTRO.
Okay.
And then bolome, BOLOME.
Okay.
It's kind of putting together estrogen and microbiome. They're just like
Got
putting it together. But the best way to know is going to be a stool sample. I know people hate to do it, But it's such an important marker. And sometimes, especially today in the age of quarantine, you can do it in the privacy of your own home. I know a lot of companies use like different stool analysis kits that can be sent to your home. So no one has to watch you do it. You literally do it at home. You put all the samples in an envelope, in a box, and you send it off. But that's how you're going to get this information.
Well, I'll tell you what, having been a mom of a newborn, you pay attention to every poop. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't make sense that we wouldn't, the older we get, that we would just like throw out all that education anyway. It makes far more sense that we're paying close attention to our bodies. Mm-hmm. What is like the healthy definition of your poop? I mean, what is it supposed to really look like? What's it supposed to really feel like, when it does come out, Raquel?
Yes. So what we use in school all the time, literally, I can remember it like yesterday, we used to pull up the Bristol stool chart. And before we would even get started talking about digestion, I would always pull up this Bristol stool chart so that you can see the varying levels of how your poop should look. And it goes from a well-formed poop, so it's not too hard, not too soft. And then it goes down the line to, okay, maybe it might be a little softer, you're more constipated, or you have a little bit more diarrhea. That's the standard for letting you know how your poop should look, or a healthy poop.
So there is a chart called the Bristol chart.
The Bristol
stool chart. Try to say that 10 times really fast, huh?
I know. And I know you guys will add it. But it's what a lot of GI doctors, is what we use all the time in med school when we saw patients, because it kind of helps you see like, oh yeah, sometimes my poop, it's maybe a little bit more well-formed in the morning, but then after I have like caffeine, it's maybe a little looser. So it helps patients to kind of identify like, oh yeah, I do notice that my poop is a little more like this or like that. So that's what we use to like signify healthy versus maybe a little more unhealthy.
Got it. So let's also talk about IBS as it relates to endometriosis, because women with endometriosis seem to have a much higher risk of IBS, correct?
Yes. And the biggest way that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, just, if the risk is 3.5 times greater than those in the general population, but really historically IBS kind of seemed like it was one of those catch-all things, where, well, I'm not really sure what it is, because I was diagnosed with IBS once and it was like, I'm not really sure what it is, so let's call it IBS.
Exactly.
Has the diagnostics on IBS improved, or is it still kind of in that category of we're not really sure, so we're going to call it this?
And unfortunately, that's how it is. A lot of doctors aren't sure, so they group everyone together. And it's also very important to understand when your doctor's telling you that you have IBS, or they saying that you have irritable bowel syndrome, saying that it gets irritated from different foods or conditions, or inflammatory, meaning that your immune system is playing a part in your digestive system. So it's very important to make sure you have a doctor that is, well-versed on what these different things mean. But unfortunately, a lot of doctors, they kind of use the easy way to just say, it sounds like IBS, so let's, just stop eating the foods that's causing it. But to me, the stool test is the best way to know, what's happening.
So what are all the things that we're going to look at if we do a stool test? I mean, if somebody's at your practice, are you doing heavy metals? Are you doing estrogen levels? What are all the things that you're going to actually look at? 'Cause now I'm curious. Now I want to do it.
I know. So there are so many different types of stool tests. One that we use at school a ton, it broke it down into different areas, which I love. Not only did it break it down into different areas, it told you the right way to treat this specific pathogen. So first they give you the first sheet, and you have a breakdown of all the pathogens, all the bacteria that should be in your gut. And they show that in relation to what might be off balance. And so it's almost like a scale, and it tells you this is the bacteria that should be in your gut and this is healthy. But now you're having an imbalance of this bacteria that is very unhealthy. It goes down and it shows you your gut in relation to people like in the population. And then in the next few pages, it shows you what specific strains of antibiotics or any like nutraceuticals like berberines or olive oregano. It'll tell you not only what antibiotics you can use, but it also tells you more natural ways that you can kind of kill the bacteria in your gut as well. And in naturopathic medicine, we talk about it as the 4 R's. So anytime we have someone and we always do a GI test first, but then we call it the 4 R's. That's how we treat any patient. And so the first R is going to be removed. So the test will literally tell you what pathogen might be causing this bloated, fatigue, low libido, things like that. First, we want to remove that pathogen. And sometimes it does take an antibiotic. I'm a naturopathic doctor, but in some cases, in extreme cases of SIBO or, you know, some patients that have really bad GI issues, sometimes the antibiotic is warranted because you want to get rid of everything first. So after we do the first R remove, then we replace. So then we try to replace your gut with healthy bacteria. And then we re-inoculate, which is the third R, with more healthy bacteria. And then we do more of repairing, which is the fourth R, with like healthy like herbs and nutrients to kind of help repair those enterocytes in the guts and things.
Nourish. I like that. It's like a nourishing approach at the end, which is incredible. I like how you distinguished between a food that might irritate your stomach for lots of those reasons, because there's a pathogen or a bacteria is imbalanced or what have you, versus that immune response where you might have like a full body histamine reaction or we don't even know, right? Or hives, right? Or something, or mouth sores or something like that. Talk to us though about celiac disease, because isn't that related to autoimmune?
Right. So celiac will be more of an inflammatory bowel disorder. And these patients, it's not just like, oh, when I eat this, you know, I just feel, you know, I feel like upset. Like, no, these patients are physically ill because the ingestion of that substance, it sends their body into a full immune attack. So patients with celiac disease, they literally cannot be exposed to or eat these foods because their inflammatory, their immune system can't handle that food or pathogen. So the patients who have celiac, it's going to be more of an autoimmune disorder.
Got it. And that can lead to recurrent miscarriage, correct?
Absolutely. And a lot of women that have symptoms that are similar to celiac or any IBD, IBS, things like that, they always want to make sure that they are clear on what is causing these symptoms. What I tell a lot of women who suffer with recurrent pregnancy loss, whenever you are starting your fertility treatments or you're trying naturally, you want to be very careful with gluten. So I know in celiac, that's one of the things they tell you to take away because gluten sets off an inflammatory response. So I tell my patients, you waited so long, you're here, and now you're trying to conceive. Let's just remove gluten altogether, just to be safe, you know, because to me, if we know that gluten is setting off this inflammatory response, why would we introduce it in the first place, you know?
Gosh, of course. I love your approach, though. It's so positive. It's like you've already come this far, and now we're at both the starting line and the finish line, you know, in some cases. And like you said, why would you intentionally put something in your body that you know is going to set off this negative response? And the immune system's so involved in trying to get pregnant. That's the last thing that we want to do is you're walking into a fire trying to conceive. It doesn't make any sense. So that I love your approach in that so much. What about just constipation and sort of the fecal consistency in terms of diabetes or hypothyroidism?
Yeah. So for that, one of the first things I do is I like to do like a dietary assessment. And I always like to see what are you eating, which a 24-hour dietary recall can always make somebody say, oh, wow. I thought I ate better than this, but
Right. So that was me the last 3 weeks to like tracking my food. I was like, wow, I'm really realizing how often I eat Dante's leftovers.
I know. I'm like, yeah, that's what I always like to do first. And I love that you said that because what I always find is I'll say, okay, so what do you eat that triggers different changes in your bowel movement? So they might say, oh yeah, I noticed that when I eat dairy, I feel a little bit more constipated, or if I eat this, it gives me a little bit more diarrhea. And so I always help them to clue themselves in to see like, oh, I didn't notice it, but these foods are contributing to this GI imbalance. And in cases of like hypothyroidism and diabetes, you already are challenged with, slower digestion. So I always encourage, food first. So many people take so many supplements, but when you already have slower digestion, we have to get your bowels moving so that you are absorbing these nutrients and getting rid of the things that you do not need.
Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense, right? You're just putting on supplements that you're not even absorbing. What's the point in taking them? It's just a waste of money.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not, I remember we said this before in one of our Facebook lives. It's not what you take, it's what you absorb. You know, so many people take like $1,500 supplement lines and they're like, and then I do a micronutrient essay on them and it's like everything is depleted, and it's because maybe your gut is inflamed and imbalanced and it's not absorbing any of the things that you're taking.
I also noticed, at least with me, this relationship between retaining a lot of water, which would make you feel like you're kind of hydrated, and actually having the opposite impact on stool. Being very dehydrated and like having things. So that's always like a trigger for me. It's like if I eat too many carbohydrates or drink too much wine, and then I'll be retaining so much water for a few days and, poop just dries up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, then it's like load up on vegetables or load up on, for me, lemon water does the trick to like get things flushing and, losing the water retention and like truly hydrating the colon.
Yeah.
Are there other, besides magnesium, are there other good ways to hydrate the colon if you're not really even absorbing nutrients or maybe even water very well, right?
Yeah, no, I always recommend, of course, like things like magnesium, but also making sure that you are taking a really good probiotic. So a lot of people aren't taking a good enough probiotic or a probiotic that is good enough for their gut specifically. So many of us, like we take probiotics that are just like on sale at the store, but you want to make sure, what do I need for my gut? Do I need 20 billion CFUs? Do I need 50 billion CFUs? So oftentimes something else that could encourage digestion is making sure that you're getting the probiotic strain that is right for you.
Yeah, that's okay. I wish we had more science on that.
I know.
Because
I know.
It is frustrating. Now I take an 11 strain. I don't even know how many billions of whatever, because everybody's got like billions and billions. But I do wish that our research would progress in this area, because it is very difficult to tell people, well, like start out small. And you're trying to go back to that Bristol poo chart, because you're trying to accomplish a certain objective with like the quality of your poo.
Yeah.
And when you get there, but along the way, you might make it looser, you might make it drier, because it is. And then for us, I know when we travel internationally, everything changes as well, and so it's like, it is a little bit of trial and error, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I know like they have the different ones in the store. Like they'll have some near like the feminine hygiene area or some near the gut, but then they never really tell you. It just says like for overall support. You never really know like what is good for what.
Right.
And so, I always just try to encourage, strains that encourage inflammation or help your body to combat that inflammation that you may come in, that you may encounter. Sense. And so some of the ones that are anti-inflammatory strains are going to be the Bifidobacterium infantis, rhamnosus, and Crisci. Those are all the strains that are targeted for your immune system.
Okay, got it.
And those are the most common ones that you'll see in the store anyway.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Now, what about having to poop every day? Does everybody need to poop every day to be considered healthy?
Yes. So that's a really big thing that is it's like a misconception that, I don't have to poop every day, or I poop every other day, or I poop every 2 weeks. I've even heard some. Yeah. So
I'd be so cranky.
I know.
You would know. If I hadn't pooped in 2 weeks, you would just know.
I know. And you'll feel it. I feel like you feel it that you haven't pooped. But so it's supposed to be almost like our doggies, like our pets. We're supposed to have bowel movements the same way. Every time you eat a meal, it takes a little bit of time, but you should have a bowel movement immediately following.
Got it. Okay.
That's how you have like proper digestion, but it has to also be specific to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, that has a lot to do with the foods you're eating, right? So I mean, we can do whole shows on like, here's the ideal diet to make sure you poop every day. So if somebody does want to dive deep on this though, and get a stool test done, where should we point them?
Yes. So you can absolutely book an appointment with me through my website. I can lead you in the right direction. I actually have an account with a company who can send a GI test directly to your home. You can do it in the comfort of your home. And then once you get your results back, we can go over it together and come up with the plan. Great. Definitely get in contact with me if this sounds like something you're interested in.
Okay, love that. So as always, you can find Dr. Raquel on the Fertility Answers app, both iOS and Android. We'll make sure that her website, thefertilityadvantage.com, is easily accessible to you. If you like this content, if you know somebody who needs to be talking about their poop who isn't, please share our content, subscribe to us, like us, find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, anywhere that you are, we want to be. So we appreciate you all so much. Thanks for letting us talk about poop. We all should be talking about it, not just always. Everybody needs to talk about it. Thank you as always, Dr. Raquel.
Thank you.
See you next week.